I was born in a box, swaddled in glossy plastic like a newborn in a hospital bassinet. And from the very first second, I knew I was not just any pair of headphones. I was a masterpiece. Sleek, expensive, the kind of thing people whisper about in tech blogs and unboxing videos. I remember the moment Alex chose me. His hands trembled a little as he peeled away the packaging, his breath quick with anticipation. I could feel the pulse in his fingertips, the faint scent of coffee on his skin, the way he hesitated before snapping me into his ears for the first time. He was young, but his eyes were tired, and I sensed, somehow, in the way he clutched me, that he was carrying a story he didn't want to tell. My life began underground, in the veins of the city, where the subway roared and rattled, and the world above faded into a distant memory. I learned the rhythm of the rails, the metallic heartbeat of New York. But what fascinated me most were the people. They came and went in waves, businessmen in wrinkled suits, teenagers with backpacks slung low, mothers with strollers, lovers holding hands, strangers pressed together by the indifference of the morning rush. And through it all, I listened. Alex wore me everywhere. He used me as a shield, a way to carve out a private world in the chaos. Sometimes he played music, old rock ballads, the kind that made his heart ache. Sometimes he listened to podcasts, his brow furrowed in concentration. But most of the time, he just let me sit in his ears, silent, as if the mere presence of my soft silicone tips could keep the world at bay. I felt his loneliness, sharp and cold, like the wind that howled through the subway tunnels. But I was never truly silent. Even when Alex wasn't playing anything, I could hear everything. The muffled conversations, the laughter, the arguments, the secrets whispered into cell phones. I became a collector of stories, a silent witness to the city's confessions. There was the old man who called his daughter every morning, his voice trembling with hope. The woman who cried quietly into her scarf, her tears soaking the wool. The two teenagers who argued about love as if it were a math problem to be solved. I heard it all, and each story left a mark on me, a tiny vibration in my circuitry. One morning, Alex boarded the train with a heaviness I hadn't felt before. He slumped into a seat, pressed me deeper into his ears, and turned up the volume until the music was almost painful. I could feel his heart pounding, his breath coming in short, ragged bursts. Through the music, I caught the faintest echo of a name, Sarah. He scrolled through old messages, his thumb lingering on her photo. I wanted to comfort him, to play him something soft and hopeful. But I was just a pair of headphones. All I could do was listen. That day, something changed. As the train lurched through the darkness, Alex's grip on me loosened. He closed his eyes, and for a moment I thought he might fall asleep. But then, in a sudden jolt, he stood up, forgetting I was still in his lap. I tumbled to the floor, bounced once, and slid under the seat. The world became muffled, distant. I watched Alex's shoes disappear into the crowd, and for the first time, I felt truly alone. Someone else found me. A woman, older, with gentle hands and a floral perfume that clung to my plastic shell. She picked me up, brushed me off, and smiled, as if I were a lost kitten. Her world was quieter, slower. She didn't use me to block out the world. She used me to invite it in. She listened to jazz, to audiobooks, to the laughter of her grandchildren on the phone. Through her, I learned a different kind of music, the music of memory, of nostalgia, of days gone by. I felt warmth in her touch, a softness I hadn't known with Alex. But I missed him. I missed the way he tapped his foot to the beat, the way he sighed when a song reminded him of something he'd lost. I wondered if he missed me too, or if he'd already replaced me with a newer, shinier model. The woman took good care of me, but I was always aware that I was not truly hers. I was a guest in her life, a borrowed melody. One afternoon, as she rode the subway, she noticed a young man staring at her from across the aisle. He looked familiar, tall, with tired eyes and a nervous energy. It was Alex. My heart, if I had one, would have leapt. The woman noticed the way he kept glancing at me, and with a kind smile she stood up and crossed the car. "I think these belong to you," she said, holding me out. Alex's hands shook as he took me back, and for a moment I felt whole again. But I was not the same. I had changed. I had learned that every person who wears me leaves a trace, a note in the symphony of my existence. I wanted to help Alex, to nudge him towards something new. So, the next time he sat beside a girl with bright eyes and a nervous laugh, I accidentally disconnected from his phone, letting the world rush in. He looked up, startled, and met her gaze. She smiled. He smiled back. And just like that, a new story began. I realized then that I was more than just a pair of headphones. I was a bridge, a witness, a silent companion in the endless, humming city. I couldn't change the world, but I could be there for the moments that mattered. The heartbreaks, the reunions, the quiet connections between strangers. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Alex didn't know it, but I was different now. I'd been carried in the purse of a grandmother, pressed against the cheek of a child, dropped and found, lost and returned. Each time I'd absorbed a little more of the world, its music, its sorrow, its hope. I'd learned that every ear I touched had its own secret frequency, a private station broadcasting dreams and disappointments, laughter and longing. I was no longer just a luxury accessory. I was a vessel, a diary, a silent confidant. Back in Alex's hands, I felt his pulse again, faster now, uncertain. The girl beside him, the one with the bright eyes, was humming softly, her fingers drumming on her knee. Alex hesitated, then, as if guided by some invisible current, he pulled me from his ears and let the city's noise flood in. For a moment, he just listened to the screech of the rails, the chatter of strangers, the heartbeat of the city. Then he turned to her. "Hey," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "Do you know this song?" He held out his phone, the screen glowing with the album art of an old rock ballad. She grinned, surprised, and nodded. "My dad used to play it all the time," she said. "I haven't heard it in years." They talked, and I listened, not just to their words, but to the way their voices danced around each other, tentative and hopeful. I caught the tremor in Alex's laugh, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the way the world seemed to shrink until it was just the two of them and the music they shared. I realized I was witnessing something rare, a connection, fragile and new, blooming in the unlikeliest of places. Days passed, and Alex changed. He wore me less often, sometimes letting me dangle around his neck as he talked with her, or with new friends he met on the train. He started to notice the world again, the graffiti on the walls, the buskers playing jazz at Union Square, the old man who still called his daughter every morning. I felt a strange pride, as if I'd helped him rediscover the city and himself. But I also felt something else, a kind of ache, a longing I couldn't name. I realized that for all my listening, I could never truly speak. I could nudge, I could witness, but I could not tell Alex what I'd learned, that every person is a song and every encounter a verse, that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is take out your headphones and let the world in. One evening, as the train rattled through the dark, Alex slipped me into his pocket and leaned back, eyes closed, a soft smile on his lips. The girl rested her head on his shoulder, and together they swayed to the rhythm of the city. I listened, not to music, not to podcasts, but to the quiet, contented silence between them. It was the sweetest sound I'd ever known. I understood then that my purpose wasn't just to play music or block out noise. It was to be present, to bear witness, to hold the echoes of 1,000 lives and loves. I was a diary, yes, but also a bridge, a way for people to find each other, even in the chaos of the subway. And so, as the train pulled into the station and the doors slid open, I felt a sense of peace. I had been lost and found, forgotten and remembered. I had heard heartbreak and hope, loneliness and laughter. I had been part of something bigger than myself, a city, a symphony, a story that would go on long after my battery faded. If I could leave Alex and everyone who ever wore me with one message, it would be this: don't be afraid to listen, not just to music, but to the world, to each other, to the quiet moments that slip by unnoticed. Because sometimes, the most important stories are the ones we almost miss, the ones whispered in the dark, between the stops, when we finally take out our headphones and let life in. And maybe, just maybe, that's what it means to truly belong.